Warning, this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. What is your scariest altercation that ever happened to you? This was a very one-sided altercation. I tried to talk 3 or 4 college football players out of abducting my 2 female friends in a parking lot. One of the girls knew the football players, the other didn't. The guys were extremely drunk and pretty vocal about pulling a train, etc. One of my friends was actually screaming rape while being restrained in the back seat of the football player's car. A big linesman backed me against a wall to keep me out of the way. I'm 6'2", 225 pounds, but he was much bigger and much taller. I complied until he walked away to get in the car. I followed him back to the driver's window to once more try to defuse the situation and get my friends back. I just bent over to talk to the driver, when he slammed the door open enough to tear my shirt and cut me open. I'm a little unclear on the sequence of events, but I guess he didn't get out of the car, as my next recollection is getting clotheslined by the driver through the window of the car. Boom. Back of the hand and forearm to the temple. I just dropped. I woke up to someone asking if I was okay. The car was gone with my friends. I had to hitchhike home, as I'd ridden with the girls, and went to sleep planning ways to bomb the football player's dorm. My friends called in the morning. The SHT bag football players had pushed them out of the car on the way home because they screamed and fought so much. In the middle of nowhere, but they got home safe. I still spent the rest of the day ready to off some athletes, and the pain from the punch lingered for a few days, but I eventually cooled off. This is a prime example of 1970s Southern football culture. The athletic department covered up rapes and assaults far more damaging than mine on the regular. Not the scariest, but it was an interesting one. Hanging out in Seattle, it's getting a little late, so generally it's time to not interact with strangers, but my young dumb ass started talking to some homeless people. One wanted some water and I gave him a bottle. He dips his bloody finger in it and pulls out a knife. He didn't threaten me, but I kind of started looking around and realized I was in a group of like 10 people and was alone. I dipped out real quick. I was in my trailer that I was renting while I was in college. I hear a bunch of screaming outside and look out the window to see a dude absolutely beating the SHD out of some poor woman. I called 911 and reported it, but I legit thought this guy was going to kill her. I grabbed my shotgun, unloaded it, and went outside. I was just hoping to scare him enough to get him off of her until the cops showed up. There was no way I was going to be able to fight him. He was a huge dude. So I go out, walk up to within 20 feet or so, rack the shotgun and tell him to leave her the FCK alone. He stops beating on her and starts yelling at me, calling me a fucking PC with a gun. He keeps threatening to come at me anyways, saying I don't have the balls to shoot him. I couldn't have anyways, but I suppose I could have hit him with it. Finally the cops show up after the longest 5 minutes or so of my life. I set the shotgun down and put my hands on my head as one of them immediately comes to me and cuffs me. The woman is trying to explain what happened, and eventually the other guy gets arrested as well. That was the most scared I have ever been in my life. I immediately started bawling in the back of the cruiser. For my effort, I got slapped with brandishing a firearm in a threatening manner and a few other things. Luckily, everything eventually got dropped, but not until after it made my life a living hell for several months. When Pokemon Go was popular, I was like 15 and this truck followed me for like 2 miles, so I called the police and the guy was a known sex offender. Scary shit. Weird guy started talking to me on the train. Started telling me that he was homeless, that he's an orphan. I'm waiting for the part when he starts asking for money, when he starts telling me about all the places where he hangs out and does various drugs. He does all the drugs. Pot, coke, heroin, meth. I almost didn't believe him, and it's probably not true. But he kept acting all weird. He said he likes my shoes and wanted to trade shoes with me. He even took off his own shoes and handed them over. Of course, I refused to even touch them. It's all weird until I get to my stop. I told him I have to go and he jumps up and asks for my phone number. I tell him I don't have time and walk away. I think he's sitting back down, but I catch him out of the corner of my eye getting up and exiting the train. At this point, the alarms are ringing in my head. It's around 6 p.m., so it's not nighttime yet, not completely dark, but I had to walk a little bit to get to my car, which was parked at the opposite end of a parking lot. I do the thing where I put my car keys between my fingers, in case I need to punch him. I try to avoid looking back because I don't want him to know that he's following me. But I can hear his footsteps, so I pick up the pace. I don't really understand what his plan was, but I get to my car safely. I drive away, and I see him walking back into the train station, probably to take the train to his actual destination. Oh boy, it's my time to shine. It was 2 a.m. I was walking home from work when someone steps out of an alleyway to block my path. It was my own fault I didn't see him coming as I had headphones in. The following exchange was the closest I've ever come to needing fight or flight. He wondered if he could ask me a question. I was expecting him to ask to use my phone or for change, but boy, I wasn't ready for what he said. Hypothetically, if someone was on the run from the police for doing something bad, like really bad, and they needed money, would you be upset if they hurt you to get it, or would you understand? They're really desperate and they don't mean it, but they could really do some damage. Like they wouldn't kill you, but you wouldn't be able to recognize them again. Now he said this with no sense of irony or humor about him. He was deadly serious and hadn't taken his hand out of his pocket, so I was expecting a knife and knew I had to think fast. My response was to keep telling him that I'm not a grass, so if I saw this guy I wouldn't say a word to anyone about it, and I'd rather just give him money than have to fight and risk the guy getting caught. He started muttering that it was an acceptable answer, and after I gave him £10 he vanished back into the night. I have no idea if he was telling the truth or lying, but at 2 a.m. I damn sure didn't want to find out. The only other time was when I was buying some of Colombia's finest export and the guy wanted to show me the gun he'd just bought and pointed it at me saying I was undercover police. He then fell about laughing, but for about 2 seconds I thought I was gonna die. Didn't see him again. It was this fight with a kid in the neighborhood and he kept saying he was gonna kill me. But it was the 80s, everyone seemed to say SHD like that. Other kids pulled us apart and the guy went home crying. A couple of minutes later we are all still standing around when the dude comes back with a metal baseball bat. Runs up to one of the kids who pulled him off of me, winds up, and crashed the bat down with full force on the side of the kid's knee, breaking it badly. It was horrifying and we basically all ran away in terror as he proceeded toward us. I was once followed back home in the dark by a man because I refused to give him money when I was entering a convenience store. I believe he intended to hurt me, probably stab me. As I entered a dark alley, with no one else in sight, he came around the corner behind me saying, "I can't believe you wouldn't give me no money, man." I told him to leave me alone and kept walking. He then started to sprint towards me, and in response I dropped my bag and spun around, drawing my pistol from its holster and racking a round into battery. He was maybe 8 feet from me. Not a step closer, I said, "Leave me alone." He started laughing, turned away from me and walked back from where he came. It was the closest I'd ever came to killing a man. The adrenaline didn't go away for hours. I was robbed 4 times working at a gas station. Once at Sock Point, dude looked crazy and I'm not messing with that. The other times were at gunpoint, once pressed to my back, once pointed over the counter in my direction, and once over the counter but aimed right at my head the whole time. I feel like I'm missing one. But don't recall anything other than the sandwich shop was still closing down and the girl working there was terrified and felt guilty for just hiding. She did the right thing, as I frequently assured her. It was around my 16th birthday at the time. I'm 19 now. I had recently been living with a family friend because my parents did not want me home alone. He was a cool guy, 2 years older than me, and he would always leave the house late at night and come back a few hours later very tired and seemingly drunk. One day it was like 1 a.m. and I was watching Family Guy on the downstairs TV and I hear a loud thumping coming from outside the house. I get a little scared and just see the door get slammed down and my friend grabbing me by the arm and yanking me out of my seat and telling me we gotta get out quick. I had no idea what was going on and kept asking him WTF, where are we going, and he kept saying I'll explain later. Run quickly. We get a few blocks away from the house and we go to his aunt's house, and from his aunt's house you had a clear view of his backyard and we saw people rummaging around the house, breaking glass, stealing stuff, and they had guns in their hand. Apparently he had gotten in a weird altercation with a rivaling gang and they were chasing him down. If not for him I would easily been dead. Thanks Kareem. BTW left a load of details out, just left the juicy parts and what you really want to hear. I got attacked, unprovoked, when I was lining up to get into a bar in town. 4v1. I've been in similar situations before, so I did my best but ended up on the ground with them all kicking me. Next morning I woke up and had a boot print across my forearm where they tried to kick me in the face while I was on the ground. This is on top of the standard black eye, sore jaw, bruising right round the sides and back of my head. Not really scary, but kind of creepy. Maybe 6 or so years ago I was in my backyard picking up dog poop and this guy sees my dog and comes up to the fence and starts talking to me, saying he lives in the apartments behind our house. I was 19 at the time and this guy looks like he's in his 60s or so. He's petting my dog over the fence and is asking me questions about her, then he starts hitting on me and asking if he can take me to the bowling alley down the street sometime. I was getting creeper out, so I said I needed to go back to picking up poop and he left. 2 days later he rings my doorbell asking for money for food. I had no money, so I just gave him some leftover pizza, which I found in the yard later that night. My now ex-husband and I were arguing. He had already slapped and shoved me. I got to where I was on the other side of the dining room table from him. I had no place else to go and nothing I could use to defend myself. He pulled out a Bowie knife and started screaming at me that he was going to kill me. He stabbed it into the table several times, still just screaming profanities at me, and tried to throw the table at me. I kept trying to talk to him calmly and I for real pissed myself. I was absolutely convinced that I was going to get killed. He had choked me out before, broken a bowl over my head, had stitches, amongst other things. This was the first time he came after me with a weapon. It was terrifying, and I've been through a lot. I divorced him shortly after this because I found out he was cheating on me with an actual crack whore. But that was the real beginning of the end. I still have the table though. Hockey trainer that was new to the team molested me after a game while I was bent over my hockey bag undressing and putting clothes on. I had a band shirt that I absolutely loved and he wanted to read the back of the shirt, so he got behind me and he grabbed my hips. I felt everything. Then reached around and started fondling me. All the while some of the other teammates were undressing and internally I'm screaming, but I can't do anything. Almost frozen. I really don't know if the other guys knew what was going on or if they were just as shocked. This was in the mid-90s and this is the second time I've ever told this story. First time was to my therapist I started going to about 2 weeks ago. I just want to feel normal again. I've had some trauma happen the past year too, and just right now I'm having a super hard time with everything. Seems like my life is just done. Like I have nothing else to offer. Does that make sense? Anyways, that was one of my scariest altercations. Have had many more, but that one sticks out for obvious reasons. Stay safe everyone. One really hot night I got off of work at my brewery and on the way home realized I didn't have any cold beer. I have a warm 12-pack from work in my car though. I pull into the gas station near my exit, and walked in to grab a 12-pack of PBR. I'm in line and the dude in front of me is getting PBR too, and just as his transaction ends, it's 12:01, so cashier won't sell me beer after midnight. I'm like, what the FCK? The cashier's like, I'm sorry, it's tied into the computer system so I literally can't sell you this. Guy ahead of me hears this and is all smug as FCK, and like, how much is this 12-pack worth to you? Now, my entire argument with this guy is, if you sell me this beer, what are you going to drink? And I'm trying to explain to him that hey, I work at a brewery, I got fresh but warm beer in my car, I will give you 3 warm beers for every cold beer. Dude's not having it and gets kinda aggressive. I finally tell him, fine dude, no need to get fkin aggro, take your beer and FCK off, and leave. I'm at my car and hear the door ring and look up to see the dude come out. He's storming. I can tell he's pissed. I'm a head taller than him, but he's fkin roided out. He's yelling at me to watch my fkin mouth. I hold my hands up, apologize to the dude, try to explain my point of view again, and hold my hand out for a handshake. Dude decks me in the jaw and drops me. Glad I didn't break nothing. Fuck that guy. I was waiting for a bus when a woman walked next to me, punched me in the jaw and then ran away like a crazy bitch. Woke up and opened my window to see someone sleeping in the bushes below the window. I screamed and he woke up and just stared at me. After he ran off and I called the cops and they checked the window and saw handprints all over it and his nose imprinted as well. Odd times. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.